It appears that Michael the Count Bisping might make a return to the fighting ring to go up against the problem child Jake Paul. The two took to Twitter in what went down as a back and forth of insults, leaving everyone wondering whether the two will actually face off. And recently, Bisping uploaded a video on his YouTube channel where he seemed pretty open to a potential fight with the 25-year-old. So let's talk about it. First up, he doesn't see Jake as a threat. In his video, Bisping started out by saying that he's pretty happy with the way his career came to an end, saying that he was content with what he accomplished and now he's very happy in retirement. But he added he still missed the thrill of a fight and that he only quit because of his injuries and the fact that he only has one good eye and didn't want to risk his other one. But now that Jake has called him out for a boxing fight with those big gloves, he doesn't really see the 25-year-old as a threat and says that he would actually enjoy knocking him around in the ring. And this has happened before. Bisping went on in his video, somewhat joking, somewhat serious, and giving props to the 25-year-old for making a name for himself in the fighting world and becoming as big of a star as he is, and getting as many pay-per-view events as he does. Bisping admitted that he is enticed by this fact. It's no secret that wherever the Paul brothers go, money follows. But he goes on to reveal that they'd been in this dance before when Paul sent an email to Bisping's manager Adi Attar asking the 43-year-old to step into the ring for $500,000. The Brit asked them to double it and make it a pay-per-view, to which he says he never got a response. Jake's representative, Nakisa Badarian, confirms these claims, saying that Paul and his team did approach Bisping for a potential matchup, but the talks broke down later on. But setting up a fight won't be easy. Even if both sides come to terms this time around, a matchup between the two isn't going to be easy to set up. Why? Because of Bisping's health issues. When he retired from the MMA back in 2018, the Count revealed that he was completely blind in one eye, and then he spent years lying to athletic commissions so he could continue to compete. But now, the truth is out, and everyone knows it, so it might prove difficult for him to obtain a boxing license in the USA to fight against the 25-year-old. But Bisping might actually have a way around that. In his response to Paul's challenge, Bisping talked about it being difficult for him to get approval to fight from any athletic commission in the country. He said that if the boxer was really serious about getting into the ring with him, then he should wait a few months for him to shed some pounds and train, and then they can have their throwdown. As far as the location is concerned, Bisping says that he's ready to go anywhere where they wouldn't mind the Brits' handicap, from Dubai to some Indian reservation to somewhere in Europe, Africa, or even China. As long as Paul is serious about this fight, Bisping's down for anything. Next, Bisping's parting message. Bisping really seems like he's having fun with how ridiculous this whole situation of a 25-year-old calling him out is. But there is a part of him that does want this fight. He ends the video with a sort of parting message for Jake Paul, saying that if he's actually serious about this fight, then shoot him an email, reiterating that he was happily retired and this whole thing was beneath him, but he thinks that him versus the problem child would generate a lot of interest. Along with that, he sort of gives Jake some advice, telling him to go up against someone his own size and closer in age as well, like Tommy Fury. But if he still wanted to face a 43-year-old who's blind in one eye with barely functional knees, then let's get it on, instead of running his mouth on Teddy Atlas's podcast. That was something. Now, in related news, Tommy Fury's message to Jake Paul. Tommy Fury and Jake Paul have had beef with each other for some time now. The 22-year-old, who's set to face Daniel Buchiansky on Saturday as the undercard to Tyson Fury's world title defense against Dillian Whyte, was locked to face off against the problem child in December. Unluckily, Fury was forced to back out from the fight 2 weeks prior, suffering from a bacterial chest infection and a broken rib, while Paul himself went up against Tyrone Woodley, winning the match with a one-punch knockout in the 6th round, taking his record to 5-0. Now that he's back, the 22-year-old has commented on a potential rescheduling of his match against the younger Paul brother. Talking to Sky Sports, he said that right now he's more focused on his fight on Saturday and that he doesn't really care what Jake has to say, mocking that the guy can't keep his name out of his mouth. He further went after Jake, calling him out for backtracking on everything he says. The 22-year-old said that first Paul didn't want to fight him, then suddenly he was a potential fight for him, and now he wants to see the kid get a knockout before getting in the ring with him. The guy won't make up his mind. He told Paul not to mention his name unless he wanted a fight. Further, went on to say that if the problem child did want this fight, then it isn't hard to find, telling the 25-year-old to get in touch with him so they could set it up. Fury again reiterated that right now his mind is on his fight against his Wembley opponent, Buchiansky, and that this fight is a lot more credible for him than a Jake Paul match. Oof, he really didn't mince his words, did he? Next, PFL's Antonio Carlos Jr. wants a piece of the Paul brothers. The light heavyweight season winner of the Professional Fighters League, or PFL, Antonio Carlos Jr., has recently expressed his interest in taking the Paul brothers on. The 32-year-old Brazilian fighter will start off his second season in the promotion on Wednesday from Esports Stadium in Arlington, Texas, where he will be facing off against the rookie Dylan Monte. The reigning reigning champion in the pursuit of a second $1 million prize with this new season, talked to Scott Fontana on a Q&A post-fight interview on Zoom, where he also revealed his interest in fighting one or both the Paul brothers. When asked which out of all fighters that have lived would he want to go up against, the Brazilian jokingly replied one of the Paul brothers. He then went on to call both Jake and Logan, saying that they always want fights against fighters that have either retired or are on their way out. They never ask for a fight against a champion or one of the top contenders, always aiming for someone that's smaller than them. Whoa, shots fired. And Michael Bisping wants Jake to fight Anderson Silva. The Twitter back and forth between the former UFC champion and Hall of Famer Michael Bisping and the problem child Jake Paul continues, with Jake calling Bisping out to a fight, saying that the champion was on his fighter hit list. With everything we've talked about in our main story already, some new developments have occurred since, with Bisping telling the younger Paul brother to focus more on getting a fight with another person on the list, Anderson Silva, instead of him. Paul recently made demands for the Hall of Famer to prove that he was still in fighting condition and not under a contract with the UFC. The Brit fired back at the Pretender, saying that first he wanted to fight him, then he backtracked and asked him to show if he could get licensed, and now Paul wants him to prove he isn't under a contract. Bisping retorted, "Mate, I wouldn't give you the steam off my," and went on to tell the 5-0 boxer to accept a fight against the former Brazilian middleweight champion Anderson Silva, saying that he knows an offer has been made from the other side. Bisping has not had a fight since his defeats at the hands of Georges St-Pierre and Kevin Gastelum back in 2017. Since then, the champion has had several health complications, especially in his eyes, one of which he's lost blind in. The Brit was ready to face Paul last year, asking for $1 million for going through with the fight, but the talks broke down after this demand. Now, nothing can really be said about whether Bisping would face the YouTube star sometime in the future, or if this is just going to be one of those what-if fights. Let's wait and see. That's a wrap for this video. So, do you guys think Bisping will take on Jake Paul? Let us know in the comments below. If you liked what you saw, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe so you never miss a video. See you in the next one. Bye, guys.